Following President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement, we caught up with Moulana Ebrahim Bham from the Jamiatul Ulama of South Africa to discuss the logistics and social distancing plans for masjids to undertake in their efforts to safeguard worshippers from the COVID-19 virus. Assalamu alaikum and welcome, Moulana.
Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum to all the viewers, and wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you.
Moulana Bham, what are your thoughts on the reopening of the mosque?
Well, we from the Jamiatul Ulama have welcomed the President's announcement that there is going to be an easing of restrictions with regard to the opening up of congregational prayers in the masajid, albeit to a limited amount of congregants.
And what sort of logistics will be put in place to accommodate 50 or less people? And what is the recommended distancing?
Well, there is no doubt that this is going to be challenging because of the fact that there was a temporary suspension of congregational prayers. It is going to be challenged. There will be people who will be enthusiastic to return back to the masajid and to return back to the mosque. However, we are confident and we will call upon the masjid committees to see to it that they abide by the regulations, have the necessary protocols in place, and have the necessary disciplines to be able to abide by the regulations.
And how will these 50 worshippers or less be chosen?
Well, that is something that we are going to look at every masjid committee. We can't have a situation of one size fits all. There are smaller masjids in the outlying areas where would it be easier for them, where, for example, the whole entire congregation in a particular salat would have been 50 or maybe less. The bigger major urban areas would have to find ways and means to be able to come up with an acceptable formula to the congregation, to the musallis, of how to abide by that 50 regulation. Now, how it is going to be done, we are not going to be prescriptive as a Jamiat. We will give certain guidelines, but I suppose every masjid will have to come up with some form of regulation and with some form of formula to be able to accommodate the 50 in every given time. We are waiting, obviously. There was supposed to be a briefing today from the government about certain more emphasis and more understanding of the regulation, but that has now been postponed for tomorrow. So we are hoping to hear and to see what those regulations would be, what are the understanding of the regulation for us to give further type of guidelines on the matter. As I said, it's going to be challenging, but we'll have to come up with certain formulas and be innovative. One of the benefits that has happened is that people have become accustomed to making their own jamaat, their own jumas in respective different places. So maybe that should continue. It will have to continue. And we will have to find a way of how to see how the 50 people can be accommodated. Maybe it might be through the means of registration. Maybe it might be on the basis of first come, first serve. As I said, you can't have one guideline that will fit all the masajid because of the differing conditions and the different numbers of congregations in the different masajid. But we are confident that the masjid committees will put their minds to it to try and come up with certain degrees and certain type of formulas.
Moulana Bham, is the Jamiatul Ulama preparing a guideline for mosques to implement prior to reopening next week and during the pandemic? Also, how will the members of the public know what these guidelines and what they should do in terms of attending a mosque?
Well, we were thinking of taking out guidelines today, but because of the postponement of the required ministers to give us more details on it, we will postpone those guidelines after receiving the details of the regulations. So we are hoping that tomorrow we would be able to send out something. But overall, we do welcome it. We do regard it that it is going to be challenging, but comparative to having absolutely no Jamaat in the masajid, this is something that is welcome, and it should be done by abiding by the regulations.
Moulana, and whose responsibility will it be to monitor that the mosques are adhering to social distancing?
Well, the discipline and the responsibility has to come from the masjid committees. You can't have a central body being able to do all of that. I suppose in terms of abiding by the law and see that it abides and it meets the legal criteria and it meets the criteria of the law, well, there are law enforcement agencies, that is them. But in terms of, we are hoping that the masjid will be responsible enough to be able to adhere to it without any intervention necessary from any other enforcement agencies.
Moulana, some small towns only have maybe 1 or 2 mosques, and some of the mosques are quite small. And with regards to the spacing out of the worshippers, do you suggest that the small towns should identify a spot in the community where the worshippers can go and pray instead?
It's very impractical. I mean, sometimes where are you going to get something that is, necessarily found in terms of Fajr Salat, for example? Where do you get them to go out in the open to perform Fajr Salat? What should be done is, that's why we are waiting for the details of the regulation. For example, if the details do say that there should be 1.5 meter separation, then if that particular masjid, which has a smaller capacity, and with 1.5 meter, it can accommodate 20, for example, then it must be abide by the 20. So what we are saying is we are waiting details with regard to the regulations to be able to advise further.
Jazakallah so much, Moulana, for your time. Is there anything else you would like to share with our viewers?
Well, there's no doubt that, as we are aware that congregational prayers is something that is highly emphasized in our Sharia. There was a temporary suspension which was agreed upon by ulama bodies, and that was because of a specific situation. The medical advice and the medical guidelines that there should be a temporary suspension. Now the medical advice is that it should be opened up with protocols, and it shouldn't be completely open, but it should be open in a stage that can accommodate so many musallis, so many type of congregations. So we should abide by that. We know that zikr of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides us contentment. Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. In the remembrance of Almighty Allah, will hearts find contentment and satisfaction. We need to be disciplined. We have to look at the overall picture rather than our own individual interest. So for example, if for example your time or your registration or you are not allowed in one particular salat, then make the necessary sabab. Don't enforce and say that I need to go and I have to go. Understand that there's a broader picture with regard to it. Many people will also ask the question is that this is not something that has been emphasized. It's not the ideal. The ideal from the Shari point of view, Nabi Karim had said, stand in self, stand together, don't break the ranks of the self. We understand that that is an ideal. This is an exemption. It's not the ideal. But exemptions have been provided for in our Sharia on a broader level. So this is an exemption rather than ideal, and we take it from there that we benefit from the exemptions, waiting that inshallah one day a time will come when we will return back to the ideal.